Hi everyone, this is Galen Martling. Today I have a tag card and it's a birthday card in watercolor. And so I'm showing how to make it a shaped card and so that it could stand up on its own and open and close just like a card would. And so I'm using watercolor paper, I'm using Unity stamps and dies. The stamp is called Extended Celebration. It is the May 2022 Sentiment Kit by Unity. And also the die cuts are by Unity. It is with the die set called Make a Tag. And so I am using the largest die out of that set. And so for the stamping, you want to stamp with some ink that is waterproof. And so you stamp onto watercolor paper and then you die cut it out, or you die cut and then stamp, whichever you prefer. But just make sure that if you're using watercolor, that you use watercolor paper and waterproof ink. And so for the watercolor, I am using Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens or markers for this. And this is just adding very light, bright, summery shades to the gifts and the balloons. I stamped multiple balloons to go over those presents there, and I stamped the sentiment right underneath all of them. And this is going to be made as a belated birthday card. And so I'm adding a few different layers of watercolor. And so if you want to add different layers of watercolor, I recommend you heat set your first area of watercolor first and then add some more. Just to make sure it doesn't bleed through, unless you want it to bleed through. With images like this that are, that have details, you may not want it to bleed into the other colors. So this is just what I like to do every now and then, just heat set it in between. I'm just adding a little bit of blue. I started with a light blue and now I'm going with a little bit of a darker blue all around it, just to give it a little scene look. And I wanted some of the areas to be a little darker, so I go in and add touches of the pen or the marker, and then I blend it out with a brush. I used to do two different kinds of brushes, one very narrow for detail and one of them just wider, more for blending bigger areas like the background. And so now for the die cut for the card making, you want to use a half sheet of 8.5 by 11 inch paper cut long ways, so that it is so that you can fit two tag die cuts facing each other. Sort of, if this was a die right there, you want to face it towards that short end of the top of the die. And then you die cut that tag twice. I am using an Anna Griffin electronic die cutting machine, but I also have a manual one, a Big Shot. So use whatever you have for die cutting machines, but you will need a die cutting machine to use the dies, use metal dies. And so I'm lining it up. This is the top plate here that is just shy of that top part of the die. I don't want to cut the top part of the die. I want to cut everything else except for the top. The top is going to be scored and folded later on. So when you peel off this, I put some tape down just to keep that die and paper in place. You want to just leave that top part not cut. And you're going to do it again with the die facing the other die cut, but you're going to also keep that top plate just below where the narrow end of that tag is, and you run it through the die cutting machine again. What you're going to get is one piece of cardstock that has dies facing the paper facing each other. If you have any leftover attachments of the paper, just trim them off with a scissor. Sometimes when you leave that extra space at the top, the paper wants to stay fastened there. Just use a scissor and cut those off, and then fold and score that top line there, and then you'll have a stand-up card base. That's the shape of a tag. Now for the stamp layer, I just added some foam double-sided tape and placed that right there onto that card base to finish. It's wonderful. I love it. Thanks for watching. Please take a moment to subscribe and have a great day.